It was just after midnight when Ethan missed his usual train. The station was nearly empty, with only a few scattered passengers waiting for the final ride of the night. He checked his watch, realizing that the next train wouldn't come for another 30 minutes. Ethan walked to a bench, glancing at the dim lights flickering overhead. He leaned back, trying to shake off the unease he felt. The station had always been quiet at night, but tonight felt different. The air seemed heavier, and the shadows seemed to stretch a little too far. Eventually, the faint sound of a distant whistle echoed through the platform, signaling the approach of the last train. Ethan sat up, his pulse quickening slightly. He glanced around, but the station remained eerily still. When the train finally arrived, it wasn't like any train he had seen before. The windows were pitch black, as if there was nothing inside. The doors creaked open with a long, drawn-out sound, and a chill ran down Ethan's spine. He hesitated, but curiosity got the better of him. He boarded, stepping into the near-empty car. The seats were worn, with threads hanging loose. The air inside smelled stale, as though no one had ridden this train in years. The door shut behind him with an unsettling finality. He sat down in an empty seat, the low hum of the train's engine filling the silence. As the train began moving, Ethan noticed the other passengers, pale figures, dressed in old-fashioned clothing, sitting completely still, staring ahead, not making a sound. After a few minutes, he tried to speak to the person sitting across from him, a man dressed in an old brown coat. But the man didn't respond. In fact, none of the passengers moved a muscle. The train rolled on through the darkened city, the lights outside flickering past in an almost rhythmic pattern. Then, without warning, the train came to a sudden stop. The lights flickered out, plunging the car into darkness. Ethan's heart raced, his mind scrambling to make sense of it. He felt a presence beside him, something cold brushing his arm. The lights returned a moment later, and Ethan turned to look at the man in the brown coat. His eyes were no longer just staring ahead, they were locked on Ethan now, cold and vacant. Suddenly, all the other passengers turned their heads toward him. Their eyes were dark and hollow. No one spoke. The air grew thick, suffocating. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The sound of the train's wheels on the tracks grew louder, faster, as if the train was speeding up uncontrollably. Ethan jumped to his feet, stumbling toward the door, but when he reached it, he found the handle jammed, stuck in place. Panic surged through him as he tried to pry it open, but the door wouldn't budge. From the front of the train, a voice echoed through the silence. "You're not getting off." Ethan turned to see the conductor standing at the front, his face obscured by shadows. The train lurched again, jerking forward as if it were accelerating towards something. The station he had boarded at was long gone, there was only the endless night outside the windows now. Ethan realized then that he wasn't on just any train. He was on the last train, and it wasn't headed anywhere he wanted to go. The last stop would be the one he could never leave.